Call this meeting to order, please. I now return this over to County Administrator Craig Meadows.
Good evening, folks. At this point in time, I'd like to ask for us to rise and observe a moment of silence, and then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Let us pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome, everybody. Tonight, the Board of Supervisors will be conducting 2 public hearings for the purpose of receiving citizen comments. The first public hearing, which the chair will open in just a minute, is for the county's advertised fiscal year 1920 real estate tax rate of 89 cents per $100 assessed value. At the close of the first hearing, a second public hearing will then be held on the advertised fiscal year 2019-2020 budget. And I do need to mention that because we advertise the tax rate public hearing at 6 and the budget public hearing at 6:15, if we get through the public comments on the tax rate prior to 6:15, then we'll pause and reopen the second public hearing at 6:15. As we go through each hearing, the name of the person who is signed up to speak and the next speaker who is signed up on the list will be called, and both should come forward. The first person will speak, and then the second one will be in line to speak after that. When you come to the podium, please state your name and address and use the microphone. You'll have a total of 5 minutes for your comments. I want to remind everybody tonight to please direct your comments to the members of the board, not to the audience or the staff. This is the board's time this evening to listen to you and hear your concerns regarding the tax rate and the budget. No discussion or questions will be answered during these 2 public hearings this evening. I do want to remind everybody as well, as a courtesy, that audience members are asked to refrain from clapping or commenting between speakers so that each speaker may have their full 5 minutes and also be clearly heard. And if you do have any written comments to share with the board, we ask that you leave those with the clerk as well. At this point in time, Chair King, I'll turn it over to you to open the public hearing on the tax rate.
All right, we'll open the public hearing on advertised tax rate, real estate tax, 89 cents per 100 assessed value. First to speak would be Richard Workman. Second is Aaron Bull.
I'm Richard Workman. I live at 212 Pine Drive in Blacksburg. You just want comments on the tax rate now and not the budget?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hope I can make some sense out of these comments. In the past, this board has done a good job providing revenue with a 0 rate increase. I think we provided a lot of additional revenue, and with 70% of the funds going to public schools. This year, 89 cent rate proposal is actually a 6 cents rate increase based on an 83% 0 or neutral rate. If you consider Blacksburg and Christiansburg, much of the county is small farms and medium income small homes. A rate of 6 cents is going to really hurt some of these folks, particularly ones with fixed income and low or medium income jobs. So I would hope you would take this in consideration. A 6-cent rate increase, that's a pretty big boost, when they're actually only saying it's 89 cents, which is neutral. So take this in consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Erin Bull. I live at 2422 Ridge Road in Blacksburg. In addition, I'm also a 5th grade teacher at Christiansburg Elementary, and we have a lot of folks from Christiansburg Elementary and Primary here this evening. I was pleased with the reassessment that the county is gaining that 6 cents of increased revenue without having to adjust the tax rate. And I am here tonight to speak in favor of maintaining the current rate of 89 cents per $100. This is a much needed increase in funding for the county and the school system. You guys know me. Each year I come and I speak at these meetings because each year we have the same issue. We need money for our schools, we need money for our county employees. And for the last several years, every time when I or others have come, it's always wait till the reassessment, that'll take care of things. So after not having an increase in the tax rate in over 5 years, I'm really glad that the reassessment came back with increased funding, because it seems like that's the only way that the county and that the schools tend to get our needed funding, because the cost of living and the cost of doing business for all of us is increasing year after year. I will say, with the assessment being how the funding is increased, that means that people are benefiting from those increased property values, especially if they plan to, resell or anything like that. And tax relief is available for people in need. This is not in my written remarks, but just as a side note, both of my parents are retired, and they make considerably more on their fixed income that I, as a teacher in my 15th year of teaching, makes at a time when I should be saving. But certainly for people in true need, there are programs and there are things available for them, because I know I have students who are in need. So, but I do want to say that I believe it was at the last hearing when Supervisor Tuck was saying that reassessments have been the way county keeps up with inflation. So certainly we do not want to lower the tax rate from 89 cents, because this revenue has to make up for the years without a tax increase. When Mr. Meadows was giving his budget presentation, he talked about the biggest resource in the county being its employees, and the people in the school system are also its biggest resource. These employees deserve appreciation. They deserve to be compensated accurately. And this funding, all of this funding, is needed to go to the county and to the school operating budget in order to make that happen. Students in Montgomery County deserve a highly qualified, caring, and committed teacher. And to recruit and retain teachers, we need funds to implement a 3.5% salary increase that was passed by the General Assembly and signed by the governor. Again, based on the increased cost of living as well as our student debt, teachers need a salary increase pretty much every year to stay in the profession, and we have education support professionals who need this increase just to keep up with a living wage. With the manner in which these funds are allocated, we need all of that money to come to the county and to the schools, but we also need it to be allocated, and I'll speak more about that later, but we do need the money to be allocated to the school operating budget instead of being split. When we talk about the makeup of Montgomery County, it is important to note that the state has done a local composite index which has the locality's ability to pay. And we are not grouped with our neighboring counties. Our ability to pay, we are grouped with Virginia Beach, Stanton, York, and Botetourt. So we have an increased ability to pay. We certainly do not need to go backsliding. We need to pass the full advertised tax rate. Thank you.
That's all we have signed up for this part of the public hearing. If anybody else would like to come forward and speak, please step forward. You have 5 minutes. On the tax rate. For the tax rate.
Good evening. How are you guys? Matthew Finchers, 395 Summit Ridge Road, Christiansburg, Virginia. I just want to say lowering a tax rate is like lowering expectations. Please do not do that. We should expect a lot from Montgomery County. Thank you.
Sorry, I signed up for the other one, but I need this one. Lori Walls, 1568 Thomas Lane in Blacksburg. When we talk about the budget and tax rates, and all those include, we should remember we are funding more than teacher salaries. Before students have even arrived to our school doors, MCPS employees have been preparing for their arrival. Transportation folks, from the bus drivers to the bus garage attendants, the administrative assistants, and all those involved in safely getting them to our building. Cafeteria workers are up early preparing healthy meals. Custodial workers have arrived early to be sure buildings are clean, warm, or cool, and open for the day. Technology workers have checked to be sure all systems are up and running. Facilities keep our buildings safe, plumbing fixed, lawns mowed, snow removed, buildings painted and looking nice. Once inside, human resources have made sure our students find our buildings staffed with well-qualified instructional assistants, teachers, and administrators. This may seem overstated, but it really does take a village of caring and dedicated employees to meet the needs of all of our children. I ask that you consider funding the tax rate to be sure we are offering the best to all who contribute daily to the good of our communities.
Hi, my name is Kelly Pleasant. I live at 2737 Old Fort Road in Blacksburg. Excuse me. I'm a teacher at Gilbert Lincoln Elementary School, been there for 20 years, and have been a resident in Montgomery County for 25. A couple of things that I wanted to say about the tax rate. Yes, the reassessment comes and you look at it and you go, oh, good, now I can sell my house for more. Or my house is worth more. That's a good thing to me. That my house, my property, the things that I have spent money on, that it's worth money now. It's worth more money than it was worth yesterday. So that's a good thing to me. That never bothers me. I never mind paying my fair share. Two of my children went through Montgomery County Public Schools, obviously. I worked there as well. But when I was doing my taxes this year and writing that check that made my hand shake, I was again reminded that I am not an employee of the Commonwealth of Virginia, okay? I am an employee of Montgomery County Public Schools, which is funded by you. And so, the money is delegated by you. It's funded by me, and it's funded by the other taxpayers in Montgomery County. And I believe that there are just as many people, if not more, who are willing to pay those taxes for the school system and the other government, very important government agencies that our taxes support, than those who aren't. There is assistance for people who are really struggling in lots of ways. I am not trying to take money out of people's hands who can't afford it. There is assistance. Perhaps we should be advertising that more, letting people know of their options. But as of right now, 89 cents as advertised, I support. And I think a lot of county members, people in the county would support it as well, at least from what I hear every day all over the county. So I appreciate your consideration on this and thank you for all you do.
Good evening, I'm Robbie Jones. I live at 996 Cole Hall Road, Christiansburg, Virginia. I'm here tonight to ask you to support the 89 cents on $100 tax rate that you've set. Montgomery County employees, they haven't had a cost of living raise. Their salaries were frozen for 6 years. People who are on a fixed income include Montgomery County employees. We're on a fixed income as well. We have employees that qualify for food stamps and as financial assistance. And I think it's a shame that somebody who can work full-time still qualifies for that. So I asked you to please consider that. Thank you.
We're at 6:15, so we can now open the public hearing on the budget. Sure.
All right, we're going to move to the next public hearing, which be...
It's on the advertised budget for
Oh, you got it.
2019-2020. The advertised budget is $201,013,581.
First to speak is Sandy Willis and Gunan Karan.
Good evening. My name is Sally Willis. I live at 1427 Fieldgate Road in Salem, Virginia. Having said that, I've worked for Montgomery County Public Schools since 2005. And what I'm here to really have us contemplate is, as a professional educator for over 35 years, I find that I'm making less than I've ever made any time in my entire life by working in Montgomery County. My own daughter graduated from Salem High School a few years ago as a valedictorian. She went to Virginia Western University and earned 2 associate degrees there, and then she went to Radford and earned a teaching degree. 3 years ago, she chose to not apply to Montgomery County Public Schools, and the important thing that I think we need to consider is nobody else in her consortium either applied at Montgomery County Public Schools, because she went instead to Roanoke City and was able to earn $8,000 more as starting pay. I'm at the end of my career, so to speak. I'm looking forward to moving on and enjoying my grandchildren and all. But I think that we're losing the opportunity of bringing in the best and the talented young people that we need to continue to support the education and growth of our own children. And I believe strongly in the power of supporting our children, because without our children, we don't have a future. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Gunin Karan. I reside 602 Floyd Street in Blacksburg. Good evening, Mr. Meadows, Chair King, and the board members, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I will be pretty much reading, not word by word, but following the letters you are receiving right now from our school board that approved in the Tuesday meeting, April 2nd meeting. The first one I would like to read is the capital improvement plan. Yes, my board approved the capital improvement plan to follow forward. As discussed during our joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors on March 19, 2019, the superintendent has requested funding for the following capital improvement projects. One is Christiansburg Primary School for fiscal year 2020 with an estimated projected cost for $19.3 million on current construction cost. I'm going to skip the steps, because I want to fit in the 5 minutes that I have. And the second one is Christiansburg Elementary School, is projected start date 2020 with estimated cost of $10.6 million based on, again, the current construction costs. And the third one is Bellevue Elementary School, projected start date fiscal year 2020, and the current projected cost for current construction is $5.1 million. And the next one will be Christiansburg High School, projected start date for planning 2020 fiscal year with the construction start date of 2023. And the estimated cost for that will be $70 million based on, again, current construction cost. On Tuesday, April 2nd, 2019, the school board approved the superintendent's request of the capital improvement plan outlined above. The school board requests the county administration to provide the superintendent with the amount of capital improvement funds and the timing as to when they will be available for the school district to develop an actual cash flow to determine the actual projects that can be completed over the next 5 to 7 years. The school board appreciates the efforts of you and your team working with superintendent and his team, trying to find a way to meet the construction needs of school district over the near future. And I appreciate your attention to that. And the second letter will be regarding the transfer of proposed capital improvement funds. That is 1.5 cents, which is approximately $1.2 million to transfer to our operating funds. As discussed during the joint meeting with the Board of Supervisors on March 19, 2019, our administration is seeking to transfer the proposed capital improvement funds as recommended by you in your fiscal year 2020 budget presentation on March 4, 2019, to the school district's operating budget. This transfer is necessary to allow the school district's salary schedule to be competitive with the surrounding districts, as well as ensuring all of our employees receive a raise of 3.5%. In addition, this transfer, if approved, will ensure that other proposed increases in our budget, such as health insurance, will not have to be passed on to our employees. Our administration and the school board believe that this request is an important step in meeting the needs of our students and staff and need to be addressed first. The 3.5 threshold needs to be met in order to ensure that the district receives all the funds provided by the state for the state-approved raises. Otherwise, we'll be penalized, as you know. On Tuesday, April 2nd, 2019, the school board approved the superintendent's request for the transfer of the proposed capital improvement funds to the school board's district operating funds. The school board requests the approval of this transfer by the Board of Supervisors as part of approval of the county budget April 15, 2019. I appreciate your consideration of our budget fund transfer request and I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Next be Marty Graham and Aaron Bull.
Good evening, Mr. Meadows, Chairman King, and board members. I would first like to thank you for your continued support for public schools in the wake of less funding coming from the state of Virginia since the recession. While your contributions have sustained us, they have not moved us to pre-recession status. As Ms. Bull mentioned earlier, the LCI that the state uses to calculate a locality's ability to provide public schools indicates that the Montgomery County is capable of contributing much more than is currently being provided. Currently, on average, the Board of Supervisors has been providing 63% of its revenue for public schools. The 70% figure that some Board of Supervisor members have stated publicly includes state and federal revenue, plus capital, plus debt service. The state is providing a partial match for a 5% raise for teachers over 2 years, but with stipulations. This is the first time in 15 years that this type of increase has been provided by the state. MCPS is fortunate that we provided a 1.5% raise last year, as providing a 5% increase in a single year would be almost impossible. Please note that this 5% increase is only for SOQ positions. SOQ positions do not include every teacher or administrator, no support staff, no bus drivers, no custodians, etc. Therefore, the county does make up the difference in order to attract and retain the best employees. Currently, we rank 7th out of 8 surrounding counties for starting teacher pay, only above Giles County, even though the LCI demonstrates that we can pay more. Moving the 1.5 cents back to the MCPS operating budget, as previously requested, would move us to 4th for teacher pay. Dr. Meyer and his staff, working closely with Mr. Meadows and his staff, have worked a lot on our capital project plan, and which Ms. Karan just provided you. The capital projects will significantly reduce our emergency overcrowding issues in Christiansburg. These capital projects can be accomplished without placing the 1.5 cents in the capital fund, as demonstrated by the Davenport report, and the capital projects can begin very soon, hopefully. The 1.5 cents needs to be in the operational budget for MCPS, as requested by the school board. With the reassessment revenue, this is the optimal time to not only attract the best teachers, but to provide, this is the optimal time to finally compensate our teachers appropriately and provide MCPS the opportunity to not only attract the best teachers, but retain them. I want to thank in advance the board members who consistently support public schools. I know, Mr. King, you are a man of your word and integrity, and I want to thank you for providing your support at our liaison meeting by stating multiple times that you are fine with letting the school board decide if they need the 1.5 cents in their operating budget. Your vote to move the 1.5 cents back to the school operating budget will be a testament to your support and respect of our teachers and public education. Thank you.
I'm back. I'm Erin Bull. I live at 2422 Ridge Road in Blacksburg. I'm a 5th grade teacher at Christiansburg Elementary. And what I would like to sort of start by doing is, if you are a teacher in the Christiansburg Strand, will you just stand up? If you're a teacher employee in the Christiansburg Strand, thank you. I do want to, the reason that I feel like that is valuable is because we are the ones who are impacted immediately by the building project. And we were at the meeting Tuesday, and there was excitement in my building Wednesday morning. Are we super excited that we're going to have a renovation instead of a new building? No, but you know what we're super excited about? This plan means we're going to get something in 2020 started. And many of us have given up hope that that was going to happen. So I just want to say, I feel like Christiansburg Strand folks, you know, we feel like we're heard, we feel like we're having things moved in that progress. So as I said before, I was really pleased that we're getting the 6 cents worth of increased revenue based on what the advertised budget was. And then I was very disappointed when 1.5 cents of that was earmarked by the Board of Supervisors. Many of you, I know, have been disappointed and upset by mandates at the national level, the state level, and a lot of your ideology is the decision should be made by the most local level. Those decisions should be made for the county at the county level, for the state at the state level, instead of being mandated from above. And based on that ideology, for us, for those of us who work in the school system, for those of us who have children in the school system, our most local level is the school board. And the school board has a plan to handle building for the Christiansburg Strand. They actually have a plan that goes beyond that to handle building for the entire county that's coming about, which I think is a great thing. And so they don't need their hands tied with earmarks of exactly how the money for education is spent. And when we have this false choice of a building or raises for employees, it creates an issue. Just as the county employees, we have been told, deserve their 3.5% salary increase, now the education employees, we are county employees too. We're sort of the stepchild in all this. We're not the state employee. We're not a county employee. We're somewhere in the middle, and we're begging everybody. But all students in Montgomery County deserve that highly qualified, caring, and committed educator. To recruit and retain these people, we need to be able to be competitive. And in order to do that, we need to do the 3.5% salary increase that was passed by the General Assembly and has gone into effect. We have the funds available to do that if the Board of Supervisors chooses to allocate them to the school system. If the county does not provide these funds, then we can lose all of this money allocated by the General Assembly and we'll be farther behind. Currently, beginning teachers are paid $5,000 less than in Salem City, $2,500 less than Radford City, and $2,000 below Roanoke County. And Montgomery County has a lot more in common with Roanoke County than we do our other surrounding areas. So attracting teachers, it becomes a challenge for us. Mid-career teachers like myself are paid less than Salem, Roanoke City, and Roanoke County. At the top of the scale, we're still behind Salem, Roanoke County, Roanoke City, and Radford again. Our employees are the best resource Montgomery County has. They deserve to be compensated. School construction, though, is important. My school is 196 students over capacity. Today I ate lunch in the library because they were having a meeting or they were doing testing in the teacher's lounge. So we do need it, but there are ways to do that without earmarking these funds. By allocating all the funds to the school operating system. It gives the superintendent and school board the flexibility to allocate funds for construction and personnel issues. Please allocate all the school funds, including the 1.5 cent capital, to the operating budget. And trust me, we, the people who are coming up and speaking to you, we're speaking to them too. But we trust them and we feel like they've got a plan. So thank you.
Next to speak would be Tony Diebler and Robin Hilton.
Good evening. My name is Tony Diebler, and I have lived at 240 Gibson Drive in Christiansburg for the past 26 years. I love living in Montgomery County, and it is my privilege to serve as the principal at Christiansburg High School. It is with great appreciation that I say thank you to this board for supporting the upgrades to the athletic facilities at CHS as the first part of a larger facility renovation and expansion in the future. I believe the improvements have ignited a renewed spirit and enthusiasm among our sports teams and our student body and the Christiansburg community as a whole. I am here to speak in support of the school board's plan for renovating the elementary schools in Christiansburg first, and then in a few years to renovate and upgrade Christiansburg High School. CHS is over capacity, and the academic space creates obstacles to instruction due to the size of classrooms, the number of classrooms, and the thin walls, which easily allow noise to enter classrooms. Based on current enrollments, 3 years from now, the CHS population will begin to significantly increase into the foreseeable future when the current 6th grade class at CMS, over 300 students, arrives at the high school. We are able to hold steady for a few years while the elementary schools are renovated. The school boards plan to prepare and design the CHS renovations over the next few years, and to be ready to break ground 3 or 4 years down the road makes great sense to me. Last month, I was quoted at the Board of Supervisors meeting as having sent an email 2 years ago stating that the Board of Supervisors should set aside money for school capital. I searched my email in order to look at the context of the statement and was unable to find any email with such an opinion expressed by me. Nevertheless, I am fairly conservative when it comes to fiscal matters, and I am certainly in favor of planning for future expenditures. However, I believe in utilizing financial resources to invest in what is needed in the present as well. The employees of Montgomery County Public Schools deserve greater compensation, especially when surrounding school districts are paying their employees more than we are. Especially when other employees of Montgomery County, those who do not work within the school system, are being given cost of living increases and raises that are greater than the employees of the school system. But the beauty of the current situation is there is a plan that has been presented which allows for a 3.5% raise to school system employees and for facility upgrades to be adequately achieved without raising taxes or by having to set aside additional funding. I encourage you to please approve the proposed plan by MCPS School Board. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Robin Hilton. I reside at 1320 Mahone Street, Christiansburg, Virginia. Thank you, Chairman King, for your representation of District D, and to each of you for all of your service. I'm speaking tonight on behalf of the MCPS school nurses and our request for your approval of the proposed budget submitted by our school board. We are aware that there are specific budget requests from a variety of groups that cover many areas. Last week, I sent each of you an email that included a copy of the speech that I presented on behalf of the nurses to the school board on February 5th that addressed our specific request. Thank you to those of you who replied. We would like to stress that we are the small group of 20 employees who are the only licensed professional, salaried exempt employees working for Montgomery County Public Schools that do not receive the benefit of VRS, the Virginia Retirement System. While the school board was receptive to our request, the concern was and still is a lack of funds. We act as liaisons between students and families we serve and many community resources, such as the health department, the Department of Social Services, medical providers, dentists, school resource officers, and both community and school counselors. We are part of our school's crisis teams. This allows us to assist in the safety of all students and staff in the event of a lockdown, an evacuation, or other emergencies that might arise. There's been a great deal of discussion in our nation and at our local community regarding safety in our schools and the growing concern for the rising number of mental health issues. In addition to monitoring physical wellness, we are the first to notice a concerning trend in a student's behavior, and we are often the ones that help align that student with the help they need to work through a crisis. Many of us have further educated ourselves by completing trauma-informed training and youth mental health training to be better equipped to handle these situations. Our assessments and treatments, along with our ability to educate children on healthier lifestyles, goes much further than the individual patient. The interventions we provide can help in decreasing poor health choices that could lead to long-term problems. Our influence in this area will have a positive impact economically for many years to come. We are so proud of the work we do, and we're happy to be in a position that allows us to make positive impressions on so many lives. Your vote to approve the requested budget will give us a better chance at receiving this well-earned and much-needed VRS benefit. This will help in reducing the recurring turnover that will likely occur when some of us have to seek jobs elsewhere in search of this benefit. In closing, I'd like to end on a personal note. I can honestly say that there are days that I feel if one other person, whether student or adult, requested one more thing of me, I would shatter. And I'm sure everyone in this room has had days like that. During one such day this year, I received this note from a former student. He mentions missing the time he spent with me, and he thanks me for all the things that I did to help him. This young man has an IEP. He's in middle school, and I've known him since kindergarten. And I also know that the challenge that he faced and the struggle he put himself through to write a full-page letter, this is huge for him. And he did it for me. Talk about bringing me back to shadow resistant. We make a lasting impression even after they leave our schools. The comfort of a retirement benefit could give us the opportunity to continue touching and impacting the lives of our youth for many years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori Walls. Anna Wade. Huh? Oh, okay. That's Miss Walls. Okay. She is.
Okay. Anna Wade and Matthew Fentress. Yeah.
I'm Anna Wade. I live at 5120 Indian Valley Road in Radford. I have two children who go to Auburn High School, and I'm a teacher at Christiansburg Middle School. I have attended the Board of Supervisors meetings, and I've heard, take care of your own. Well, we're part of you guys. I mean, you're supporting public education in Montgomery County, and I'm asking you not to earmark the 1.5 cents to the capital funds. I'm asking you not to be a roadblock for public education, because that's essentially what you'll be doing, is throwing up a roadblock to prevent your hardworking public school employees from getting, every single one of us, a 3.5% raise that we all deserve and we work really hard for. Earmarking the 1.5 cents to capital funds is a roadblock to all of us, and I'm asking you to move it over to the school operating budget so that the school board can work with us to give us the 3.5 cent raise. Thank you.
Matthew Fentress. And Zach Fowler. Is that right?
Yay. Chair Tuck and Board of Supervisors, good evening again. Matthew Fentress, 395 Summit Ridge Road, Christiansburg, Virginia. As president of the MCA, I have watched the divide and confusion between the Board of Supervisors and the Montgomery County school system over the past few years. It saddens me. My paycheck as a teacher says Montgomery County. You've heard others hit on that note. And I believe your paycheck as a Board of Supervisor probably says something similar to that. We both work for the taxpayers in Montgomery County, Virginia, and I hope that we all work on behalf of the children in our county as well. I'd like you to think for a moment the typical day for a child in Montgomery County. They are first greeted by a bus driver at their neighborhood stop. Then they safely arrive at school. Some are greeted by a cafeteria worker where they are fed breakfast and later that day lunch. As the bell rings at the start of the day, maybe they will need to drop by the nurse for medical needs or check in with the secretary or a paraprofessional. And maybe then they make it to their classroom where their teacher is waiting to deliver instruction and inspiration. Next, they may receive services from a special education teacher or a reading specialist, or how about a music teacher or art teacher, physical education instructor, librarian, guidance counselor, principal, or gifted teacher. Don't forget the maintenance personnel and custodians that make sure our buildings are up and running and ready for the next day for our children. And then again, they hopefully make it safe with one of our wonderful bus drivers. It takes a village to raise our children. We need to fund our future. If the funds allocated for our schools are held hostage by the gatekeepers' demands, we could lose millions in state funding. Your decision tonight could have negative effects on all of the Montgomery County employees listed above that I was talking about, that take care of our community's children, the thousands of Montgomery County students and families that our schools serve. Many of them probably voted you into office. These negative effects from political decisions could follow these children, their families, and us, the dedicated workers in Montgomery County Public Schools, for our lifetime. Please fund our future. Please continue to work with the school board to find common ground. The citizens of Montgomery County that you serve should come before your personal politics. If you find that your politics are more important to you than doing what is right for the safety and well-being of our kids, then step aside. If you continue to put your political agenda before our children's future, then we will remember come November. I ask you to fund our future. Thank you.
My name is Zach Fulweiler. I live at 1080 New Village Drive in Christiansburg. Thank you for pronouncing my name correctly. That is always a challenge. I thought about having prepared remarks for this, Googling information, data to present to you all, but I just ask you all a simple challenge. Can you find one person who thinks that Montgomery County employees, teachers, are paid enough? I would argue that you could not find a single person that would say, our teachers are paid enough, they earn enough, they don't need this extra money. Thank you.
Next speaker will be Heather Cox and Chris Hurst.
Hi, Heather Cox, 1006 Morningdale Drive, Blacksburg. So I did prepare a few remarks, and I also didn't realize I was supposed to wear red, so I should have that on. Okay, so I attended the joint meeting. Again, thank you for having that, and I wanted to share a few pieces of information I found really enlightening after that meeting. So we learned from Supervisor Tuck how much we spend at the local level per pupil, and then we also saw like what surrounding counties spend for the same thing at the county level, and then also overall, right? So for those that weren't there, we learned about Pulaski, Giles, Radford City, not county, Roanoke County, and Floyd County were the main ones that I remember. So first, I'd like to say, these aren't the counties I want to compare us to. Like, I do not want to compare our public schools to Giles County. No offense meant to Giles County, but that's not my objective as a Montgomery County resident. And so I wondered what they're doing around UVA. So what's that county spending per pupil? Just curious, okay? So UVA's surrounding county spends $13,568 per pupil, compared to the Montgomery County $11,308 per pupil expenditure. So these are from the same Virginia Department of Education figures that we saw at that meeting. We as a county spend $5,150 per pupil, while that county spends $9,304 per pupil. That's a county I want to compare our students and quality and teachers, etc. to. And so I don't think that we can just look at our surrounding counties when we want to evaluate those figures. Now clearly our cost of living is different here in some communities, and I understand lots of other variables are in place. But if we're going to look at what we spend per pupil, we need to look at that across the state based on quality of education and what we want from an expectation perspective. In addition to that, I shared at our last meeting that I don't think we should have 4 high schools in this county, but we do, and that's because our communities wanted that. So I'm speaking specifically to those repping the Auburn and Shawsville strands of our county, that when we have a middle school with under 300 students, we're not going to see the same kind of cost effectiveness as our middle school that has 300 students in just 6th grade. When we look at Shawsville Middle School, approximately 215 students, Eastern Montgomery High School, approximately 300 students. These schools are like private schools from a standpoint of the size. So it's going to cost us more to run those schools. And if your community members want those schools in their communities, then we have to pay for it. And so I really think that's important for us to think about. I don't know the smallest school in some of these other counties, and I don't know if they have 4 high schools, and if some of the high schools have less than 400 students, while they have other high schools in the county that have 1,200 students. I don't know the answers to that, but I think that we're pretty unique from a standpoint of having these different divisions with smaller numbers in many of them. We also have higher transportation costs due to some of the things in our county, and I want to make sure that's identified. So those are pretty important points for me. In addition to that, I would say, well, it's clear that we're not going to get the $8.1 million more that has been asked for over last year's budget. So could we get to $4.26 million? And could we do that by looking at the $1.2 million that's available in the Special Contingencies Fund? I don't know what that's earmarked for, but there's $1.2 million in the budget for special contingencies. Is that a possibility? Could we identify that or some funds in that? I think the ACE program is wonderful. I know that was used last year, and it seems like maybe it's a line item in this year's budget. I don't think we should get rid of that, but I don't think we should not be giving our teachers raises that they need, funding our schools at the levels we need to, and funding programs for post-high school. We need to focus on the kids that we're responsible for in our schools. So those are some of my thoughts. I thank you for the opportunity to share them, and I would echo that we should not have any earmarks for the schools. Thank you.
Chairman, members of the board, good evening. I'm Delegate Chris Hurst. I live here in Montgomery County on Rose Drive in the town of Blacksburg. I don't come before you tonight to advocate or lobby in favor of any specific plan you may be considering, but I do just want to reaffirm my belief that funding our schools and valuing our teachers is the fundamental core role of state and local government. Unfortunately, it's clear that local elected officials, including me, have not yet been able to deliver on the larger promise of funding our future. The employees of our schools must be our priority in every budget we prepare on behalf of the taxpayer, and it certainly should never be the first line item we start cutting just because it's often the largest pool of money. And when the reverse decision is in front of you, when there's a surplus for you to appropriate, as has been the case in Richmond, vote to invest in education and fund our future. The Virginia General Assembly has made sizable investments in public education in the 2 years I've served in the House of Delegates, and there is that offer on the table from the state that you are all considering. But state support for our local schools is still nearly $1 billion below what it was before the recession. Those drastic cuts were made nearly a decade ago, 10 years ago, and the long climb to full restoration of state support has not progressed fast enough. Teachers share stories with me all the time of their frustrations, the burnout rate, concerns over some of the lowest pay in the state. Superintendents plead with me for additional help for our children and special education programs and resources to hire teachers and other essential staff. We need to celebrate and justly compensate the workers inside our schools who labor every single day to accomplish the most noble and critical task for our society, educating our children and preparing them for the future. According to the Commonwealth Institute, Virginia continues to disproportionately rely on local governments to fund public schools compared to other states, ranking in the middle of the pack in combined state and local spending per student, but 40th in terms of a state's share of per pupil spending. I understand the pain, but don't hurt workers as we work to fix this inequity. I believe we are reaching a breaking point on how we fund our schools in Virginia. You can see it coming, I can see it coming. It's like this big red sign you can see, and it says, hey, wake up and pay attention, because putting teachers and staff into classrooms should again be our first priority, because our children are our first priority. I commit to you that I will continue to fight for change so the state starts acing the test instead of passing the buck. But I need all of you to fight with us too. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Thank you. That's all we have signed up to speak. If anybody else would like to come forward and speak, please step forward, state your name, address, and you have 5 minutes.
Boy, it's been a hard act to follow with all these teachers. It saddens me that someone would come up and say that this board has not been supported and provided the educational funding that's necessary. Every year, 70% of this budget is dedicated to public schools, in addition to the huge debt service that we're paying to build these fine new schools to educate our children. What's troubling? In this budget, over $4.5 million is provided for meals for kids that can't afford to buy their lunch or breakfast. In this budget, each year, there is funding for future capital, school capital, for improvements. It bothers me that the school budget is getting so large. I think the teachers are right. They deserve raises. I think they should approach the school board. You folks don't give out the raises. You provide the funding. if they would channel their energies in how the budget at the school board level is funded, with the increases that they get each year, millions of dollars, there should be raises that you provide in this budget for our county. It might be time to get a school budget expert to work with the school board to find out how we can somehow limit these rate increases, but provide enough funding for our county systems and our schools. So you've done a good job, in my opinion. I don't think there's a person in this room that doesn't support Montgomery County school systems. So I thank you for that.
Good afternoon to the chair and to all members of the board. My name is Deborah Travis. I live at 1550 Sleepy Hollow Road here in Christiansburg. I am not an employee of Montgomery County Public Schools, but I am a mother of 3 children who came through the system. I'm also the president of the Montgomery County, Rapid City, Floyd County branch of the NAACP. The NAACP has been a long-time advocate for equality, equity, and a thriving learning environment in education. Further, the organization believes it is fundamental for a school system to have adequate funding for compensating teachers competitively and attracting new teachers of diverse backgrounds. This can provide the opportunity to improve overall growth and success of all of its students. When a school system projects the ability to compensate other employees, such as their bus drivers, aides, and nurses, with needed benefits to protect their families, their students have a support system that aids the educational pursuits. Additionally, when classroom space is adequate and that which reduces or prevents overcrowding, we feel that students can perform better. Therefore, when considering the needs of our community, our branch of the NAACP supports the ideals presented by the budget proposal from the school system and the capital improvements. So we appreciate your full consideration. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kim Dowdy. I live at 95 Overlook Drive here in Christiansburg, and I want to thank you for extending the offer to come up if you didn't sign up. I'm a busy working parent. I ran straight here from the book sale at Christiansburg Primary School just this evening. This is a Google image that my husband downloaded. That is my home. It is literally throwing distance from my bedroom window to Christiansburg Elementary School. Had I not come to the school board meeting on Tuesday to speak about my concerns with overcrowding in my daughter's school, which as a resident of Christiansburg, I had no idea what the extent of that overcrowding was. I feel like I'm an informed citizen. I've come to Board of Supervisors, open forums. I stay involved with educating myself on the website. I did not know what the conditions were in our public schools until my child was in kindergarten and I came to the open house when Mr. Lewis walked us through the school. I still at that point was flabbergasted, not knowing that my child would not have walls in her classroom. It was a difficult transition for us in kindergarten. Without Mrs. Spohr and without Mrs. Jones, her kindergarten teacher, and the support that she received, I don't know where we would be as a family right now. I'm also the president of the Overlook Homeowners Association, and I've polled my residents. They didn't know this meeting was happening tonight. They didn't know that this was the topic for discussion tonight. So as informed residents, we're trying to understand what's going on in our community. As I drove here, I was listening to a radio show about the opioid crisis in Southwest Virginia and what is happening. So on Tuesday, I listened to our children come and speak on behalf of a beloved teacher. I don't know the ins and outs of the issue with that personnel situation, but I do know that this room was crowded with concerned citizens that want to be heard if they understand what's going on. Our schools in Christiansburg are excessively overcrowded, and all of the proposals are necessary. Yet my child lost her first tooth this week and came home with a little plastic tooth from her school nurse. And it was the happiest moment in her year because that person made her feel so safe this week next to me and her father. The people behind me are the most important people in her world. I work at Radford University and I meet students every day that want to be them. And they don't want to stay here because they don't feel like they have a future. We have got to change that. Whatever you need to do to empower our school board to make that happen. We have a preeminent institution of higher education here. We have Virginia Tech and Radford, and we have excellent medical services that are, and technology services that are pulling people here. I sat in interviews for people coming to Radford University, wanting to work at Radford University today, and I want to be able to sit in those interviews and say that our local government is doing everything that if you choose to move here, your children will have a safe and healthy education opportunity, and the people that are working hard to educate them can pay their bills and feed their family. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Crystal Fentress. I live at 395 Summit Ridge Road, Christiansburg. I'm a parent of 3 MCPS students. I'm married to an MCPS teacher. I myself am a 19-year veteran of MCPS. I guess you can say I'm slightly vested. I ask that you as a board please support the school board's proposed budget and trust their ability to make sound decisions for MCPS students and staff. Please stand if your efforts here tonight are to support Montgomery County Public Schools. Parent, teacher, custodians, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Cynthia Roop. I live at 306 River Hill Road, Roanoke, Virginia. I am a Montgomery County School Board employee. I want to thank you, the ones who read my email and who responded. I want to let you know that it's not just about funding us so we can live. If it was not for public education, you cannot be a lawyer, you cannot be a good farmer, you cannot be a good police officer / bus driver, whatever. It takes education. And it starts with our babies in the preschool programs, in the kindergarten programs. Now, let's talk about personal stories. I heard someone say something about the farmers and having land and that sort of thing. I am married to a farmer who is also a school bus driver for a neighboring county. We know what land use tax help is because we use it. And it only takes 1 cow on an acre of land to use that. There's a help for the person who owns land. Buy a belly goat, buy a chicken. You can get them cheap for about $10 at the stock pen. Teachers try to look professional, as well as the people who help the children and help the teacher, the paraeducators. Do you think that we go to the loft and buy our clothes? No. The majority of my clothes come from Goodwill because I take the time to save money to help my child who is at Virginia Tech to become an agriculture teacher to get through school. I know what it's like to be a bus driver. I did it before I come to Montgomery County Schools. We as paraeducators, bus drivers, we don't have VRS. But you know what we do have? We have a passion to help our students, and not just the ones with special needs. We help all of our students, regardless of ability, regardless of economic status. You know, I have 3 children of my own Two went to private colleges. They are in debt up to their butt. But I have helped them as much as I could and did without, so they could. I do the same thing for my kids at school. If they don't have lunch money, I will give them my last $3 to eat lunch. I don't want you to think about this as a political thing or what your neighboring person is telling you to vote. I want you to look down deep in your soul and think about that teacher that made the greatest impact on your life and see how that made you feel. And if Montgomery County education didn't do for you what you thought it should have done, I apologize. That was probably 30 years ago. That was in the past. We need to move to the future. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ryan Wiesdonk. I am at 1-800 Grayland Street in Blacksburg. I am that aspiring teacher that so many people keep talking about. I just finished last year my MA in Curriculum and Instruction at Virginia Tech as part of a dual degree program. I'm currently finishing my master's in history as part of that. And I'll be graduating in May. And I'm applying for jobs. And I'd like to stay somewhere in Southwest Virginia. And that doesn't give me a whole lot of options. Not a lot of school districts are hiring, and not a lot of school districts pay enough for me to survive. The first thing that I've been doing as I've been applying for jobs is looking at what I can actually expect to earn. And nobody gets into teaching for the money. So I'm not looking to make a lot, I just want enough to get by on. And the salaries that are there are not always competitive, as a lot of people pointed out, with nearby areas. And the effect of that is that everyone else who was in my cohort, who also graduated, left, including people who grew up here at somewhere in Southwest Virginia. They did not decide, as far as I know, to stay here and teach. And I know people who are in the same program that I'm in now, in the history side of things, who did grow up here and who are getting those degrees in education and in history and are also leaving because they just can't make enough to get by here. I want to stay here because I grew up in Northern Virginia, and that's a good enough reason to never go back. But I need to be able to survive when I'm down here. And I've applied in a number of places, including Montgomery County Public Schools. But my hope is that I could actually be able to get by when I am here, and that's still a concern. So as you're considering this, there are actual people who are applying for jobs who are thinking through exactly what everyone else has been saying. That those kinds of funding decisions do really matter in that consideration. At the moment, probably the biggest reason that I would consider being here is seeing so many people turn out for something like this. I would be convinced that I would be supported by a lot of the staff here. I also did my student teaching in both Blacksburg High School and Shawsville Middle, and I was convinced by spending a lot of time with the students there that this county is worth going to. I just need to be able to survive when I'm here. That's the only consideration. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Phyllis Alford in 1003 Highland Circle in Blacksburg, Virginia. And I'm just going to reiterate what I'm sure everyone else has said, having been a member of the school board for 7 years and really appreciating all that our school system does. I'm hoping that you will support the budget. We need the capital plan that's been proposed for Christiansburg schools, and we certainly need raises for our people that work so diligently and so hard. Not just 8 hours a day, so many hours a day. So I'm hoping that you will honor the request from our school system and give the money that has been requested. Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Hi, my name is Annie Chilcote. I live at 125 Wooden Shoe Court in Christiansburg. I don't have anything prepared, so this might not be the most eloquent statement, but I flew here from my son's cello lessons, and my husband, who would love to be here, who is also a Montgomery County Public Schools employee, is at Jamestown with 100 fourth graders. So I'm here by myself. with my child who's sitting on the floor back there somewhere doing something. Probably should be doing homework. But, you know, I am the daughter of 2 public school teachers, and this is probably a story you've heard 100 times before. I'm the daughter of 2 public school teachers, married to a public school teacher. Unlike one of the other speakers, I did not grow up in Montgomery County. I'm from southwestern Pennsylvania. It's a very similar economic area as it is here. But my husband and I were looking for 2 elementary music jobs and just kind of drew a giant circle, and this is where we ended up. So other people who want to stay here, who have been born and raised here or local to Montgomery County, that didn't happen for us. We kind of ended up here, and here we are, and we're raising our family here. We love it. I'm not asking for more money. Between my husband and I, we have taught in all 4 strands of Montgomery County Public Schools. My first 3 years, I was at Shawsville Elementary School, Christiansburg Primary School, and Falling Branch Elementary School. And you want to talk about crazy? I had 3 schools every week. And I think it's all about just taking care of people and taking care of the children. As a mother, I can say that I want him to have the best educators that he can have, and in order to do that, we have to be able to attract them to this area. And it's a beautiful area, and I'm still here. This is my 10th year of teaching, and please support the budget and trust the professionals in MCPS to do with the money. Thank you.
Is anyone else? Meeting adjourned.